guys?
What it do?
And welcome to the briefing room. I'm Dean.
And I'm David.
Our initial idea was, and we've referenced it constantly throughout the first episode, was to have the reaction in the podcast itself. But when we were recording that, we realized we couldn't just do our theories and so forth without actually discussing the story, which we already had. So you'd be getting a double helping of the story, as well as, you know, us then building theories off of it. So we were thinking, and this is probably what we're going to do, rather than have you get double helpings of the story, and then also have to watch an hour and a half or whatever video. We're just gonna, you know, kind of separate them, have the reactions separate, you know, something like that.
It's an hour and a half's a lot to commit to.
So with all of that housekeeping out of the way, in this one we are obviously going to be discussing the second episode, which is called There's Always Tomorrow, which is probably one of my favorite interactions of the series so far. So let's get into it. So the story picks up pretty, like, right the second where the previous episode ends off. Like, it's like that same exact moment, the realization that Julian Chase is alive. Also, something that I don't know if you've picked up, but something I have picked up. It's not necessarily weird per se, but all of the characters refer to Julian Chase by his last name of Chase. They all just, everyone in the series really so far has just called him Chase. They have not called him Julian. For the most part, I think his mom called him Julian.
Yeah, but I mean that's a mother thing too.
Yeah.
They haven't really explained that at all, have they?
No, they have not. Outside of, you know, referencing that New York was pretty much a massacre, they have not touched on his mother or sister at all, or really even his father. It's hinted,
there's a lot that they haven't touched on.
It's hinted that his father died in action as a police officer. We really haven't gotten confirmation on that. But anyway, so they're trying to address the fact that Chase is there, then and there. You know, like, he's not dead, he's not 6 feet under, he's not a zombie. He's, you know, it's a holographic projection to be sure, but it's Chase. So everyone's kind of talking back and forth. And so to quiet everyone down, what happens?
Oh yeah, the one dude, and we haven't really gotten much about him. He like just uses his finger as like a dog whistle, essentially, and like this
hurts.
Yeah,
it hurts the ears.
Yeah, it's a rough one. That scene really did a good job about capturing, like, 'cause, I mean, it's gonna be awkward, and like it was painfully awkward that whole time. It's just like,
yeah.
Ooh, and like, you know, you came and mark it as like a mark against it because it just needed, like, it should have been awkward because the whole thing, like, they all thought he was dead for 4 years. So
yeah, no, it was
that the first scene is painfully awkward.
Yes, I love when he goes, "You look like you've seen a ghost," and his commander's like, "Really?" But so basically he says that he's in fact alive in there. And he's been working on this secret project all this time. Also, I have a note. After that, the Dr. Rufus Weller goes into his little speech talking about the technology and what they've been working on and all that. And I have a note right here. Cyberdome best name.
I literally have the same thing written down. Cyberdome is the best name. Because, like the Doctor, we haven't been able to put in a name, but, Cyberdome is easily better than
Mindframe or E-Brain.
Yeah, E-Brain what? He's trashing on Cyberdome, but, that's easily the better name.
I also have a note, and it's something I somewhat... He didn't have a huge role in the first episode, so I couldn't really put a finger on it, but the second episode definitely, and I do have a note early on, and it kind of applies throughout this episode. Michael B. is a little flat in his delivery of... Not all the lines, but there are several lines where it's a little bit more emotion could have been put into that.
Yeah, that's fair.
So we get all that, and then we get it's Miguel Garza, nicknamed Migas. He's following Yaz to the lab. And when they pass by a very mad Miranda.
Yeah.
Look, I get it. He's been gone for 4 years. She thought he was dead. But that look on her face was I'm gonna fuck some bitches up. That was an unusually, I'd say, mad face. But, I'm not an animator, so I can't speak to that, but that seemed like it was a little much. I could definitely see anger, but maybe not that angry. But they go into the Bacta tank, and or go up to the Bacta tank. It's not called a Bacta tank because that's definitely Star Wars, but it's definitely the same thing as a Bacta tank from Star Wars. He's literally just floating in it, attached to all this medical equipment, like Luke was on Hoth and so forth.
Yeah.
And then we get a reference to us in the episode. Yes, definitely says the briefing room. Thanks, Rooster Teeth. We appreciate the mention. Whether it's intentional or not. So, Migas, by the way, also, I have a note. Chase calls, Miguel Garza Migas, which kind of makes sense because that's his first and last name put together. But then Yasmin goes, "You call him Eggs?" And it's where'd eggs come from? Eggs was not said at all.
Well, I assume Migas is eggs in a different language, is what I'm guessing. But
maybe. We could look it up.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
That's very possible, but I was just Migas? It makes sense because Miguel, so M-I-G, and then Gus, G-A. So, there's an additional S, but, Migas is a combination of his first and last name, so I was that's a bit odd.
Is a dish in Spanish and Portuguese cuisines.
Oh, so it's
it looks like a egg-based meal.
But it's not eggs. It's not eggs itself. It's just a meal that uses eggs as a...
Yes? Question mark.
Interesting.
So
it's still the eggs. Wrong, the eggs is still a question mark.
Yeah, I assume.
But you know what they say about assumptions.
Yeah.
And then, Dr. Weller, Migas is asking questions to Dr. Weller while he's looking that up. And, Dr. Weller's like, this system needs incredible neuroplasticity. I made a note of that. Neuroplasticity.
It's a big word.
Yeah, it is a big word. Basically, it needs a very adaptive and strong mind, basically, is what he's getting at.
Big brain energy.
Yes. That BBE.
Yes.
So he's talking about that and how everyone everyone that's worked for the polity, so I guess politicians, government agencies, and this maybe contracted army, maybe question mark. Everyone that's worked for the polity has had has been tested for this program through their normal standard physicals.
Which I made a note about that because I feel like that's a PR nightmare in all honesty. Like, the doctor's just like, you think they just are doing just health screenings at your health screening? Like,
well, he does backpedal a little bit, and he's like, which you're free to ask your doctor about. And so, they all kind of adjourn. Migas gets a ton of documents to read through, because apparently he was volunteered to be the head engineer for this project, or not engineer, but maintenance guy.
Yeah.
For this project, while they're at the anvil. That's the. I don't know if we mentioned that in the first episode. Yeah, that's the base.
Yes, sir.
And then we get Yaz's outlook on life, which is fantastic. Do you remember what she said?
No, not really.
So the episode's title is actually a reference to this, but
okay, yeah.
He goes something along the lines of things could have been better today, or something like that. And she said, "There's always tomorrow." He's like, "That's great." And she goes, "No, we should prepare in case things are worse tomorrow."
Hey, I like it. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
So then, Chase decides to go to sleep. Everyone leaves the lab. He goes to sleep. And we get quite a bop for, intro music.
Facts.
Transitioning from that scene to the next scene, which is the most different transition that we've seen in the show thus far. I liked it, but it definitely was they've not done a transition like this so far.
I mean, it's early on too still, so they barely had to do transitions up to this point.
So we get new characters. And I don't have all of them written down. I'll be honest, we were both kind of unprepared for this particular podcast. We literally just finished watching the episode and taking notes on it. Yeah. So I ran out of time before having to take my next notes. So I am missing one of their names. If you could look it up.
Sure.
So we have... just look up characters for Genlock. We have Cameron Cammy McLeod. And she is, I believe, 16 years old. She's a Scottish hacker. Oh, and I should point out, because he has not watched them at all, I didn't feel like he needed to watch them. There wasn't a whole lot content to them. But these characters have all been introduced before the show even started.
A great joke that happened in the last scene as well, though,
that's it.
is Miguel or Migas references how Chase lost weight,
Mm-hmm.
and because he has
Yeah.
no legs, I'm like, that's rough, but also
That is definitely a joke friends would do.
yes.
A lot of my perception of how friends treat each other is number one how me and my friends treated each other, but we all treated each other like that because of that '70s show, where it's just
Yeah.
that's
70 shows did a lot.
they actually introduced all these characters before the show even started. All of their trailers were basically character trailers, except it didn't really feature all of the characters. What it was Dr. Weller proposing these particular recruits to the colonel that we see that leads the Anvil. He was proposing them to her, and she was rejecting them until he forced her hand. So there's a little bit of spoilers in those trailers, but kind of not really. It's a weird thing that they did with the trailers, and I'm still back and forth on whether or not I liked them. Maybe we'll go back to those trailers. I don't know. But it's kind of bizarre. Anyway, so all these characters have been introduced before. So we have Cameron Cammy McLeod. She's like 16 years old. I don't know her exact age. She's like 16 years old. She's definitely the youngest out of all of them. And she's a Scottish hacker. And that's how she got into the program, is her hacking skills showed how malleable her mind is. Because again, it requires intense neuroplasticity. Then we have Valentina Romanazin. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. It's
Probably not.
Romanaszyn. And they even made a joke where he's calling them all by their last name when they're coming off the ship. And he starts pronouncing her last name and then just switches to Valentina. And then Robert Sinclair, and then Kazu Ida. And when they're introducing all these characters, I think what's really cool, it's been done a couple times in sci-fi, but it's still a really cool idea, and I wish existed in real life. They all have like these optical implants, I'm assuming, where Kazu does not speak English like the rest of them do. He speaks exclusively Japanese, but they understand him because of these optical implants that then translate for him. So everything he says they see in English, and everything they say he sees in Japanese. I think that's cool, and that kind of gives a story reason why we're seeing subtitles.
Yeah.
Because that's what everyone else is saying. Everyone else is seeing the subtitles. I think that's really cool. But anyway, they talk about Cairns and so forth, and at one point, Sinclair, Valentina says she likes fights she can win, and he says, if you don't like fights you can win, why are you here? To which Cammy goes, it's one of life's great mysteries. And it's like, of course, Rooster Teeth, of course you're going to add a reference to episode 1 of RVB, because you do that for everything. So they're getting, debriefed and all that. And it's made apparent that the recruits were led on by Dr. Weller. He apparently got ahead of himself and made it seem like they're automatic goes for the project, and they're just in phase 2. So they're like, wait, why are you keeping our stuff in the hangar? Don't we get bunks? Oh, no, not if you're not staying. What?
Oof. That's what we call in the industry a big oof.
So they're, preparing, they're putting on these bodysuits that Yaz is clearly wearing, not so much Chase because he's in the back to tank.
Yeah.
So they're all putting on the same suits that Yaz is wearing. And Cammy makes a note, and I noted it here too. Optical fibers on the bodysuit leading up, she says leading up to, but I'm assuming the neck or the brain, because it's like a long collar, so I'm assuming it goes into, taps into your brain, whatever. I'm not a doctor.
Let's be clear here. I'm not a doctor.
Not a doctor. Is there anything you want to point out to these new characters? Anything interesting?
Not really. I just got nothing.
One thing I will note is I've enjoyed the acting of all of these new characters. They all, I mentioned it before, Michael B. seemed a little flat at places. These characters thus far have been, really good. Better than maybe anybody except David Tennant to this point in the show. And, I mean, they're all big names. You have Kate Asia Dillon and, Maisie Williams and a bunch of good actors. Probably the lowest tier actor on that list is Blaine Gibson. Yeah. Who's actually just a Rooster Teeth employee. But they all did a really good job, or have been doing a good job to this point. We'll see if that continues. So they've gotten their suits on. They're waiting in the lunch area. And while they're waiting, the Colonel gets a little note. And because we were doing this in such a rush, I did not take notes, but I do remember on the screen I was watching a reactor, and he paused it to read stuff on the screen. And they specifically on the screen have Sinclair's name and his record with the Union. So what happens next?
His connection with the Union.
Yeah, the MP comes. And apparently Yaz was with the Union too, because when they came, she puts her gun, in a place to easily be quiet, and she, let me get back in frame. I didn't realize I was out of frame there. So she puts her gun down so it can easily be taken, and she puts her hands up, and she's like, "Listen, I was with the Union, but talk to Dr. Weller, we can clear this up." And they're like, "Fuck it, take her too."
Oof.
So, I mean, they don't really show it per se, but when they're go to apprehend him, he's like, "You couldn't have waited 10 more minutes," and he flips the coin in the air, and it doesn't come back down. Because it's nanotech. Boom. His coin turns into nanotech, and he uses it to start an assault. And I will say, especially during this point of time, because this came out, I believe, early 2018. Since then, the newest volume of RWBY has great choreography. But up to this point, the previous 2 volumes, even though RWBY at the time was known to be really good with choreography, the 2 volumes that bookmarked this particular season of Genlock, oh boy, they were not good choreography. So watching this, I was like, man, why didn't they have this good choreography for RWBY during this time? The fight scene, the hand-to-hand fight scene in this particular episode was fantastic. And it actually reveals stuff, and this also shows great writing too. It shows you some stuff that's not said specifically. I mean, maybe it was hinted when Cammy mentioned that there's optical fibers leading up to the brain area, but it's not actually stated, at least to this point in the show. these bodysuits they're wearing augments their physical ability. It enhances their, their speed, their strength. You hear a, and then they suddenly go faster, or they get a bigger hit in. Like, this suit, if used properly, can increase your physicality, whatever it may be that you're trying to do. Which is a nice touch writing-wise, that they don't say it. They're like, hey, here's this thing that happens. So Sinclair knocks down Yaz. And Chase had joined the fight at this point, but he's a hologram. What's he gonna do?
Yeah.
And captures Dr. Weller. And Yaz points the gun. And he goes, you're aiming your gun at the most important mind in the world right now. And Dr. Weller goes, huh? Oh, you mean me? I'm pretty sure she's pointing the gun at you, but that's nice of you to say. Great line.
Yeah.
I to this point, he is my favorite character.
Yeah.
Because he just comes up with these, like, one-liners. Like, he's just like, hold for applause.
Yeah.
Like, he just has these one-liners that shouldn't be as funny as they are, but they are.
Oh, yeah. Pitches jokes up for other people a lot, too.
Yeah. So, anyway, he captures him, and turns out that Sinclair is not Sinclair. So from now on, instead of referring to him as Sinclair, we're just going to refer to him as not Sinclair. Sinclair wants a Holon. He wants to take the Holon back to the Union. There's a slight problem, and it's pointed out by the Colonel. Sort of, she gets interrupted. The Holon, and it's actually mentioned in his speech at the beginning, we didn't touch it, we touched Cyberdome. But these Holons are being run through a decanted human mind. Meaning, they're basically uploading their mind to the internet, and through the internet to this robot, mech, whatever you want to call it. So your physical body stays there. What effect that has on the mind is actually kind of interesting to think about and theorize and speculate, which we might do once we're done with this recap. But yeah, so your physical body does not leave because it stays where it is, and your mind pilots it. But Dr. Weller's like, no, he has the upper hand. Let's give him what he wants. Also, he tells Chase that someone in the Union would love to say hi to him.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's
interesting because as of right now, we don't really know of any connections.
Do you have any theories on the matter?
Maybe like that person knows him who shot him down, but that would probably be my only theory.
Interesting. So that the person running that octopus thing that ended up knocking him out of the sky.
That'd be my best guess, unless maybe because we don't know anything about his parents, like his mother, to protect her child.
Yeah, because it does show in that first episode when they're doing the assault, and when they have all the nanotech. There's a guy that holds up a badge that just has the Union logo, and the nanotech just goes over him like a bubble. Same with the Union soldiers. So maybe his mom had one of those badges and avoided catastrophe for her and Driana, I believe is his sister's name.
Sure. But also, like, I wasn't picking up that vibe, and she would be down for that, but, I mean, that's a possibility, like...
Yeah, you never know.
That's really the only connections that we know he has
Yeah, because the only other one that we know he has is Negus and Miranda, but they're at the base, so they don't really have connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know a whole lot about his past other than his father was a police officer, and his mom and sister lived in New York when the disaster happened. That's about it. But anyway, they give him what he wants. He goes into the little bed thing to upload to a HoloN. And I guess your brain not being compatible means you're dead.
Death.
Yeah.
He gone. It was kind of gruesome too, like.
Yeah. He's just like, ah! And blood is coming out of his nose.
Yeah.
But not like the Master Roshi kind of blood where he sees a naked woman and it's like, ah!
Yeah. It's just, has a nosebleed, dies. Gone. Kapoosh.
So, that's kind of where it ends. Dr. Roller's like, alright, who's next? To the recruits.
It points out the importance of compatibility. In case they weren't freaked out enough.
Yeah.
That's why compatibility.
That's the chance to be like, you know what? You offered us to go home. I'm gonna go home.
I'm gonna take that out.
Alright, so we have a lot there to digest. There wasn't a lot of, in the last episode I kind of was able to look and be like, oh, hey, that, the musician on that song is, whatever. There was a bunch of spots in the background, like when he's flying his plane through New York. There's a part where he passes his mom's apartment and you see the picture of his entire family, which is the same picture he has on his phone. There was really no details like that for this episode where you could just pause it and be like, oh, what's that? Maybe for the notes on the HoloN, but again, we didn't really have time, so I didn't pick any of that up.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so what's your score on this?
Yeah, so overall, overall story, while, the episode was good, it didn't offer a lot of explanation to what's happening around.
There was some world building, but that was about it.
Yeah, so overall, we still don't know a lot. We don't know much about the Union for the most part. We got a little bit more interaction. We got more interaction on what the weapons are going to be, and we've kind of had hints in the first episode that a new sword was coming, as Yaz put it. So this weapon, they've been on the defensive. This weapon is what they're moving to, so we got a lot of explanation on that, which is going to be important for turning defense to offense and pushing back the ever-moving border that we kept talking about. But other than that, overall story, there just wasn't a lot other than Julian Chase and what's going on with him. It was very small details rather than bigger picture.
Yeah, it was the world building that they did in the story was mostly about this new project about the ESU. That was about it.
Yeah. So, there's only 8 episodes, correct?
Yes.
So, there's still a lot left to find out. Still kind of just shrouded in mystery, which is fine early on. You get overwhelmed when you hear a lot, so the smaller framework is good. Definitely, I think, could have had some more bigger picture to get a larger image of what's going on.
Yeah.
So for that, on a scale of 1 to 5 on the story, I'll give it 3.5. But I think that's a pretty.
What about
decent
so
thing?
that's overall story. What about the episode story itself, as it contained?
Yeah. So the episode story itself, I think it was good. It flowed well. I enjoyed that transition, especially because, it's moving from characters who we all know to like brand new characters that are gonna be introduced. So I thought that was good and just kept us on our toes with not Sinclair. So overall, like I'll give it a 5 out of 5. Like I can't really think of anything wrong per se with it.
All right, what's another one is
characters, right?
Character development is another one.
Yeah, I thought it was decent. Again, maybe dock a little bit for Chase, who is kind of meh. But to be fair, in that situation, what is he gonna do? Like he's just.
I will give him the benefit of the doubt. Just so you guys know, I have done voice acting before. Now, granted, it was for like a puppet show or whatever. But I've done recordings in a recording booth for voice acting. I've done acting on stage before. I've done YouTube videos. I have past YouTube videos. They're really, really bad. But I've done acting in those as well. So, like, I have the television, theater, voice acting trifecta, so to speak. And I will say, to his credit, as far as I'm aware, this was his first, if not only, voice role. And so, doing voice acting is quite a bit different than regular acting. Whereas regular acting, you have some of your physicality, so you don't have to be as out there with your voice. You can change when you're live acting, you can kind of change your body language to emphasize and kind of be a little bit more subtle with your voice. Whereas voice acting, you don't have that. Sure, you have the people animating it that can animate for you, and maybe that's another thing, is they didn't do enough to help him with that. But definitely his voice, it's not... He's strong in some areas and weak in other areas. And I do think that's partly inexperience as far as voice role, and maybe some bad direction on the director's part.
Mm-hmm. And also, to his credit, the episode in general, I feel, was kind of awkward for Chase. Like, what was he supposed to do? What emotion do you have?
Yeah, he confronts Miranda, and that probably would have been the strongest emotional scene. Mm-hmm. But again, like you said, there are some awkward moments with the writing that also probably didn't help.
Yeah, because he's just like, I'm here.
Yeah.
Y'all thought I was dead. I don't know what, like, I would be kind of awkward in that situation, give off weird vibes too, so.
Yeah.
Maybe a little dock for that, but overall with the new introduction of characters, so far we have a lot of characters to look at, and I feel like they've been doing a pretty decent job of slowly introducing more and more about it. I feel like we saw a lot more Migas this episode, got a lot more dialogue with him, because we saw he was probably like the friend of Chase.
Yeah.
We heard the most of, but this one, they kind of nailing down. He really likes Siege.
Yeah.
That's something
Rainbow Six.
And they really nail that down. The dude loves Siege. So I'll dock a little bit, but overall, let's give that a 4 out of 5.
Okay, that's respectable. Animation,
like I said, I thought the choreography and everything was good. We talked quite a bit about that already. I don't really have any docking per se for that, so I'll just give it a 5. It's
probably been the strongest showing for animation team for Rooster Teeth. Hands down, at least for the 3D aspect of it.
Yeah.
Let's see. So we have overall story, episode story.
I think you threw in music last time at the end. Which it didn't have a lot this time.
Yeah, it might have been music. I know there's a 5th category, and I'm drawing a blank on what it is. so we may just skip it and address it in the next podcast if we need to.
Yeah.
I don't know where this isn't my normal notebook.
I mean, it was something that we kind of added in last minute anyway, so...
but yeah, so
overall, like, I don't think it was bad.
So yeah, let's see, you gave it a
3.5,
a 4, and then...
a 4.5, and 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
The halves are really throwing me off. Let's see.
It's 5 such a hard number.
8, 11.
But yeah, no, why you do the math?
17. You gave it a 17 out of
17
20.
out of 20. Yeah, so I think the biggest dock is probably the overall story is kind of just shrouded in mystery, and it was very zoomed in, narrowed in for this episode. But I also haven't seen more. Maybe it was doing a lot more bigger world pictures,
Yeah,
so I guess we'll see that.
When we first had him recording reactions, we did the first 2 episodes, and then we decided to do this podcast. So he actually hasn't gotten past this episode yet.
Yeah.
Shrouded in mystery. So I'm kind of with you. So overall story, I did think of something after you addressed it. Another world building aspect that may be a little bit bigger picture doesn't really apply yet. But Not Sinclair mentioned that he's a ranger, and rangers pretty much live on the front lines, which is an interesting aspect. So we have Strider pilots, we have the whatever the airplane was called, I forget what it was called, pilots. We now have Holon pilots, and then we have rangers. So different branches of the Vanguard. So that's another, but yeah, as far as overall story, it connects in the fact that it picks up right where the other left off, but we still don't know what exactly the policy is. We only have hints of what it is. We don't know the motive of the Union, and especially with this Union assault, if you want to call it that, with Not Sinclair, we still have no idea what the motive is or anything like that. We don't know who in the Union knows Chase, because apparently someone in the Union knows Chase. That's all a mystery. So I'll give it a 4. And then we have the episode story. It's fine. It's nothing too spectacular. It's a nice change of pace from, there is action in it, obviously, but the action doesn't really take front and center like it kind of felt like with the first episode, where they really emphasized the action scenes. It was fine. My big issue with the episode story, and in fact, for that matter, the overall story, is I understand a slow build-up. That's fine. I think it's good for a story to have a slow build-up, but it's only 8 episodes for the first season. I feel like the pace they're going would be a good pace for like something that's like 12 episodes, like something a little bit more substantial, because we're now a quarter of the way through. We don't know what the bad guys are about, any of that, and I know that's going back to the overall story. But like, this episode was fine on its own in a vacuum. I'll probably give it a 4, but there was nothing. If you took this episode outside of the introduction of the characters, I don't think it really would apply to the overall story from what we've seen so far, or what he's seen so far. I have seen the whole series. So I'll give it a 4. Character development, I will give... They did introduce a bunch of characters, and they kind of hinted... They did a good job with introducing the new characters, and giving some of the flaws of the old characters. So I'll probably give that a 5, acting aside. Because, you know, we know Miranda's upset, as she should be, about Chase not disappearing. We get not necessarily character development, but, you know, we get character enforcement, or, you know, a good look at the personality of Migas. We get a good look at some of these newer characters, like Cammy is obviously the youngest, and she acts like the youngest. She's constantly the one turning around, kind of looking around. She's the most energetic. We have Valentina, who's, from what we've seen so far, is a very jaded individual. We have Kazu, who probably got the short end of the stick as far as characterization. That's the word I was looking for. As far as characterization in this episode. We got some backstory on Yaz. She was part of the Union. You know, there's quite a bit. So I'll probably give character development a 5, just because we did get quite a bit on the characters. And then what was the fourth one?
It was animation.
Animation, that's right. Animation is solid. I mentioned it before. This is probably the best animation Rooster Teeth has put out. And for those of you who are going to comment on it, yes, we will talk about the issues with that probably when the season's over. What I'm thinking, just so you guys know, because I know there's going to be comments on it. What I'm thinking is we're going to do the reactions, do the podcasts, and then do the an alternate reaction podcast, so that way you get a podcast right after a reaction. But we will, after we do the season, get all of that out of the way, what we're probably going to do is discuss those issues before going into the comics, and then eventually season 2, whenever we have access to it, whether it's through HBO Max or if we wait 6 months and do it on Rooster Teeth. So we will get into that aspect of it for those of you who are going to comment about it. Anyway, issues aside, animation looks beautiful in the show. You can't deny that it looks fantastic. Mm-hmm. So that's that's an 18 out of 20. So theories. Got any big theories that have come to your mind after watching this episode?
Not really. Like I said, I feel like the only theory that could have introduced itself through this episode is, who is it that Chase knows from the Union?
Yeah, who wants to say hi?
Yeah, who wants to say hi? So yeah. I feel like that's the only theory that could arise. Maybe you found other things, but again, with it being so focused in.
I want to know how the Union, and maybe eventually this connects to that, who knows. Mm-hmm. What I want to know is, one, how did the Union find out about these Holons? If they're not associated with the Polity at all, or the ESU at all, how did they come to learn about this Genlock program? And what did they actually set out to accomplish? Because apparently, even though she had to reiterate to him, apparently this guy already knew that that his body was going to be left behind if he took it. Mm. So what would they stand to gain by having one of their spies I'm assuming a pretty important spy if they're sending him to the enemy's biggest base.
Yeah.
What they hope to gain by having him lose his body, essentially.
Yeah.
What was the benefit to that? Unless, whatever. That's what I want to know, is what they hope to accomplish. Maybe, spitballing it out there, maybe they had learned about this program and had been developing a similar program, but hadn't quite ironed out the details, so they were hoping by him stealing their technology, they could get the missing piece that they needed for their own project.
Yeah, because it seemed like they were pretty shocked by, and none of the soldiers really knew how to react when the Hollands attacked in that battle.
Yeah.
And that from this episode is no time whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know if that's a plot hole or if they.
Yeah, that's.
You're
right, because they tried hacking into it and couldn't hack into it.
Yeah.
And they just kind of were like, run?
Yeah.
Except that one guy that just kind of stood there after everyone left. There was that one single individual. So there's that, and I agree. Who wants to say hi to Chase? Like, that's...
And how did they know? Like, have they had this spy? Maybe they had this spy in for a while now. Like,
yeah.
Even then, I don't know.
And also, what's Yaz's story? It's not really, what. She admits she used to be with the Union.
Mm-hmm.
How did she come around to wanting to be with the Vanguard?
Yeah.
Because she's not officially part of the Vanguard, but she's with the ESU, which works under the polity like the Vanguard does. And now the Vanguard and the ESU are embedding together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So those are some questions, not really theories per se. I guess we had a couple theories, like with Chase's mom and with the missing piece of information for the Holland technology, but we don't really know. There are more questions that we have
answered.
So that's it for this podcast. Is there anything you want to say in particular?
Not really. I'm excited to see what the next few episodes hold. I'm liking it overall so far.
Yeah.
I definitely feel, in general, this episode felt like more of a first episode than the first episode did.
I will agree with that. It definitely... I don't know how to classify the first episode, but the first episode definitely did not feel like a first episode.
Yeah, most... you're always gonna have off episodes. There's episodes that you're just like, and starting something off is just so weird.
It's a great episode, but it also feels like it's building off of something that wasn't already there. Whereas this feels like it's building off of, even though it's, obviously it starts right after the first episode, but it feels more like it's building up to what was the first episode.
But yeah, overall, I'm excited to see what happens next. Although, I wasn't in love with this episode, in all honesty, it still wasn't bad.
I think again, the problem is we both know, and everyone knew going into the show. Rooster Teeth even said early on, "Hey, the first season's 8 episodes."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that it should have been longer, because Rooster Teeth does not have a big animation department, and animation takes a lot of work and a lot of money.
It's facts.
And again, there are issues which you and I will address at some point with it. But the way it's written, I feel like the 8 episodes, the pacing is for something that's longer than 8 episodes.
Absolutely.
So I feel like we both know in the back of our minds, hey, this is 8 episodes. We're a quarter of the way in. Yeah. Nothing's happened. Realistically, we stuff has happened, but nothing's happened.
Yeah, there's very little that we know.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe they'll address that in the next couple of episodes. So that's it from us. If they wanna check you out any other place, is there any other place they can check you out?
Not as of right now. Maybe eventually, but not right now.
You can check me out on
I check
the
them
brief
out every day.
um,
all right.
Anyway, you can check me out at obviously this channel, and this channel has its own Twitter page at the Briefing Room SSL. So you can also check me out at, and actually check us both out at the X of Plays YouTube channel, and I also run the X of Plays Twitter page. That's about it.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in and watching.
Thanks for watching. If you liked it, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and we will see you guys in the next one.